Recording also works. Meeting is live on YouTube.
Setting up your meeting, and then once that's done, I'll share my screen. We can start.
Yeah, I can see Zoom, YouTube. That's why I'm not letting people in right now. Seems to work. Perfect. You have to mute the tab.
How can I see the script and the presentation at the same time?
You can't just put them side by side, I would say. Oh wait, where's the?
I can't move the presentation. It's weird.
So that's
Zoom full screen. That's why.
Okay.
No, it's not in full screen, but like there's no.
Oh, we are live.
Yeah, we are live. Hello, internet. Most
All right, so
in front of his TV.
Shall we start letting people in?
Yeah, I'll just click let everyone in. Are you guys ready?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Hello.
Greetings from California, everyone.
Hello. Greetings from Germany.
Greetings from Lebanon.
Woo. It's a very international webinar as usual. All right, so we'll just wait for a few more people to come in, and then we'll be able to get started.
Hi.
Hello. All right, shall we get started? Yeah. So yeah, hi everyone, and thank you for being with us for tonight for our webinar on safe travel this summer. So yes, the world is slowly starting to open up again in many parts, and as we approach the summer and as vaccination rates are picking up some speed, we thought we would give you guys some tips and tricks on how to travel safely and healthily in the summer months ahead. Just a quick mention, we're putting this webinar up on YouTube, so just in case you miss anything as we go through, you can all get the information there again. So yes, I am Juliana from JoinMyTrip, and I will be your host tonight, but I also have great support tonight from Bachata.
Hi guys, I'm Shada. I'm looking forward to sharing some helpful information tonight. Some of these tips you may already have heard of, but many more were new to us, and we found them super helpful in making our travel plans. So before we start, we'd like to remind you guys to keep yourself muted during the webinar. If you're not sure how to do that, you'll find the button in the bottom left corner. Don't worry, at the end of the webinar, you'll be able to ask your questions. We'd like to remind you to use the chat respectfully, please. And if you want to share your feelings, you can use the reactions during the webinar. You'll find them by clicking the button in the middle of the bottom row, and feel free to try it right now.
Oh, awesome. All right, so the ones that are new with us, we'd like to introduce you first a little bit to JoinMyTrip. You've seen this part if you've seen one of our webinars before, so just stay tuned. But yeah, so we'll let you know a bit about who we are and why we're putting on this webinar. So if you've ever faced the challenge of wanting to go on a very specific trip, and you were very excited and couldn't wait to start planning, but maybe you couldn't get anyone to come with you because the plans conflicted or it just wasn't the right timing and you ended up not going at all. We realized that a lot of people were facing this challenge, and that is why we created the platform JoinMyTrip. This platform is a place where we connect trip leaders and trip mates. Trip leaders are the one organizing and planning the trips. They publish their travel plans on our platform, and interested trip mates can request to join their adventure. And as a trip leader, you actually get to earn a bit of money for organizing, which is pretty cool.
Yes. And really, whatever your budget is, wherever you want to go, whichever type of travel activity you prefer to do, there are so many different options and opportunities on the website. So whether you'd like to be the one organizing or simply just kick back, pack your bags and tag along, there's an option for everyone. Currently, our community is 140,000 plus strong, and it's growing, it's rapidly growing. And it represents the world's biggest community of trustworthy travelers.
Right, and that's really why we're putting on these webinars. We have such a diverse community of travelers that are interested in connecting and growing together. We just want to make sure that we arm you guys with all of the information and motivation that you need to get out there and explore the world a bit again. So you can check out more on our website. If you're interested, we'll post that link in the chat. We'll also send these links to you via email afterwards if you're interested, so just in case you missed them in the chat. So to start things off, we're going to be talking about all the things that you should be thinking about while planning your trip. So yeah, unlike in previous times, there's going to be a little bit more research necessary to make sure that you cover all of your bases and that your trip and homecoming goes smoothly, but it will be well worth it. So first, of course, yes, vaccinations. This one is important to keep in mind because the latest information in your own country, wherever you are, will be changing daily.
One question that a lot of people have when they start planning is whether the vaccine is necessary to travel. Honestly, that will just depend on the destination, and every country's entry requirements will be a bit different. A lot of countries have already pledged to be completely open for tourists who have proof of vaccine, and they'll require no test and no quarantine, and that's likely to increase over the coming months.
So that is definitely good news. Additionally, though, there are many locations that will just require that you present a negative COVID test upon entry, and they don't have a mandatory quarantine period if you have a negative test and you seem healthy, or if you are healthy. So so if you orient your plans towards those locations, you should have no issues at all. The overall, we'd advise if you can get the vaccine before traveling, if it's available to you, it will just be more peace of mind going forward and more options. I know if you're from the US, you should already be eligible if you're over like 16 or so, or over 12 even. But yeah, every country's kind of got different things going on. Germany is a bit behind as well. So yeah, just keep updated and to see when your turn will come up.
So after you've given the vaccine some consideration, next you'll have to keep in mind the current regulations, both at your destination and in your current country. It can seem a bit overwhelming at first, but it really only is a couple of steps to check and you should be all set. The best place to start for the most up-to-date, accurate information will be the official government websites. There you should find the latest information on what the current situation is.
Yes, so there are 4 main things that you should be checking for when you're looking at these sites. So first is if you can travel to that location at all. Second, what their testing and quarantine requirements are, regardless of your vaccination status. There are some locations that will still require a negative test, even if you do have a vaccine. 3, what their local rules are regarding, masks and distancing and testing and all of that, not just in the country, but in the locality that you would like to go to. And 4, what the rules are for when you come back to your home region, like if you'll need to quarantine for any period when you come back home. So for the most part, almost all locations require a negative COVID test, taken within around 48 to 72 hours before arrival. So just make sure you book your appointment in advance, and you should be, so that you're able to take it in time. Just always double check before you travel. Things are moving a bit quickly nowadays, so certain regulations may have changed by the time you board the plane from the time you booked. So if you're interested, we actually have a news ticker on our website with some up-to-date information regarding the latest news and all things COVID and travel. So our colleague will post that in the chat for your quick reference if you are interested. So yeah, you guys already know the whole masks, distancing, hand washing thing, so we're not going to go over that, but we'll just quickly mention that most airlines prohibit masks with filtered valves and vents. They're like the plastic ones in front, as they just aren't as effective. So it's just best to avoid those overall while traveling. Additionally, in certain areas like Germany at the moment, you can only wear surgical or FFP2 masks while in stores and in transit. At the moment, actually in transit, you can only wear the FFP2 in particular. So you just have to make sure to double check that if you need those.
Okay, so we're gonna quickly go over some country-specific information that could be relevant to you guys. First up, USA. You'll need to get tested at most 3 days, so 72 hours before you travel by air into the United States, not by land. You can take a self-test, but it has to meet certain CDC criteria. Often the states have their own specific entry forms, so you should check state regulations as well. Currently, there's suspended entry to non-citizens who were in the following countries during the 2 weeks before their entry into the USA. These countries are China, Iran, the UK, Ireland, all the EU countries, Brazil, South Africa, and India. This is all regardless of vaccine status currently, but it's very likely to change soon, so keep updated. We're gonna send you a link for the USA. If you're from the US and you're wondering where you might be allowed to travel to, here's a current list of countries that are open to travel for American tourists. Here's the link in the chat.
So next we'll talk a little bit about Canada. So I know we have some Canadian members with us today. Canada currently has very strict entry requirements and has a mandatory quarantine period for all of those entering, including a quarantine plan to be presented. So the country is not open for tourism, so you must be eligible to enter for different reasons. So yeah, we'll post a link now with the Canadian government's requirements for entry. But if you're from Canada, you might be in luck because it's a bit of a low incidence country that you have a bit more options. So we'll post a link in the chat for you guys to check out where you will be allowed to travel to as well. So speaking of changing regulations, I had to update the webinar today because it was just announced that the EU will be open for all vaccinated travelers with no quarantine requirement, and that, yeah, as of today. So, so that's really good news. As well as those coming from safe countries with low incidence rates, you can come without a vaccine, but you will still need to quarantine. Yes, so for some country-specific information, we're going to just send you guys a list by Forbes of some of the more recent specific regulations of different countries within the EU. So that'll be in the chat for you guys.
Okay, next consideration, insurance. So insurance is a worry for a lot of people nowadays while they travel, and many countries are now requiring it to be able to travel into them. COVID travel insurance in particular can cover you in case of cancellations or illness. There are a few different providers of this, and some countries like Portugal offer state coverage while you travel, but all cover potential cancellation costs due to COVID, as well as any potential medical bills you might get while on your trip.
Yes, so for those of you in Germany and Austria who are with us today, if you'd like to travel through JoinMyTrip, we partner with Allianz to offer full travel insurance, which includes COVID travel insurance for your journey. So we're soon going to be able to offer this to our international users as well, but it's a work in process, so just stay tuned.
If you'd like, you can check out more info on the link that we're going to send in the chat.
Yes. All right, so now on to the fun part, picking where to go. So picking a location to travel to will, of course, yeah, largely be dependent on the regulations of the region, as we said. So in general, it's a good idea to think about also the types of activities that would be available in the place that you would like to go to. So your best options would be to focus on places that have lots of beautiful nature and offer lots of options for like ecotourism, outdoor sports, kind of anything exploration-based, just anything that gets you outdoors and away from crowds.
Yeah, and also an interesting idea for you if you're someone that works or studies from home, but maybe you don't have so much free holiday time, you might consider a location where you can have a co-working or a co-learning trip.
Yes, so in essence, you could get together with some other people and book a nice location to work or study together during the daytime, and you can explore during your free time, like during lunch and in the weekends and evenings. So this would allow you to keep a nice COVID-safe bubble while also allowing you to get out and enjoy a bit of the beautiful location and nature.
For example, our colleague Anna has just come back from a co-working trip in the Canary Islands, and here you can see some photos of all the fun she and her tripmates had. There are lots of other co-working trips online on our website at the moment, as well as all over the world. We're gonna highlight a couple of lovely trips in this webinar, so stay tuned. Anna will also be hosting a webinar on how you can plan a workation trip of your own next week on May 26th. We'll post the link in the chat just in case you guys are interested in checking that out. You can register with the link.
So that kind of brings us to our next topic, which is groups. So when traveling with a group of people through JoinMyTrip or otherwise, as long as you can communicate by outlining and adhering to expectations regarding COVID safety, you should usually have no problems. Yeah, things like, making sure that you're all tested at particular times, making sure you're not going out with others or getting close contact with people that are not within your group. They're just things like that. So yeah, even if you'd like to travel with different people, like new travel mates, yeah, as long as you have those clear plans in place, you should be able to have a good trip whilst keeping safe. So now that we've gotten the planning out of the way, we'd like to give you some advice on how to actually get there and what to do when you get there. So this may seem a bit overwhelming sometimes, but if you've got all of the information you need, then it'll be super easy to have a fun, exciting, and healthy trip without any worries.
Okay, now, as far as the whole getting there part goes, your first option and the safest one would be to drive. But for long trips, I know this one can be a bit difficult. But when you're already at your destination, renting a car is a great option for you and your group to explore safely. The next safest option would be to travel by train. If you can book yourself in a private cabin, that would be ideal, especially if you can get your travel mates together with you on the journey to split the cost. Now, plane travel. Plane travel is often the only option if you want to expand your possibilities for locations, but it also means that you're going to be close to a lot of people. However, thanks to the air circulation in many planes, they are generally considered as fairly safe as long as spacing is maintained. Check each airline's specific regulations before you book. Some might have different testing regulations than your destination, and there are some that are in talks to only allow vaccinated travelers in the near future, so make sure you're informed.
Also, it's a good idea to look up rules around layovers, in particular, if you'll be allowed to take those layovers through a certain country. Airlines can be a bit lazy and allow you to book certain flights, like to a destination that you've chosen that's perfectly safe, but maybe the layover isn't, and the airline sometimes won't tell you that, so you have to make sure that you're informed. But yeah, the basic advice for airplanes is just to keep the AC on so that air circulation is good. Wipe down surfaces, keep your mask on, of course, and wait while disembarking so that you have some distance between people at all times. So on to accommodation. When picking accommodation, there are a few things to consider. At the moment, we're not currently recommending something like a shared accommodation hostel. Maybe like a private room within a hostel would be okay, but yeah, not one where you're meeting with strangers. The best thing would be to go with something like an Airbnb. You can have an honest conversation with your Airbnb host about their cleanliness plan. And a quick tip for you is to see if you can get it in writing if you need to cancel the trip due to regulatory changes around COVID, because you can actually get your money back because Airbnb will honor those written agreements if you have them ahead of time.
Yeah, actually, one thing that I love with Airbnb is that they have no contact check-ins, which makes the whole process a lot simpler and safer for you and for your group. In any case, wherever you're booking, try and make sure that any place you book has a clear and accessible cleanliness plan regarding COVID, and that you check out their individual regulations on their website. Okay, on to activities. Unfortunately, certain types of activities are not on the cards until most likely next year, like big concerts and festivals. However, there's still plenty to see and experience to make the most out of a summer trip that will keep you safely distanced. Hiking, biking, camping trips, they're all great ideas for COVID-safe activities. There are things that will keep you out in nature and with your group.
Yes, so things like that, and any kind of outdoor water activity as well, like surfing, sailing, kayaking, etc. They're all great ideas and lots of fun, especially in the summer months. So myself, I'm a big kind of history and culture lover when it comes to travel. So I love like visiting museums and going on walking tours. So if you're like me, and I think a really good way to still enjoy some historical tourism is to check out sites with lots of ruins or historical sites, as there you can keep distance from people outdoors and have a really good time. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about how to do some of these activities, tomorrow I will also be hosting a webinar on co-learning and traveling, where I'll give you guys some ideas about all the sorts of travel activities and destinations where you can learn how to do them. So we'll post that link in the chat for you now.
All right, so on to one of my favorite activities, especially given the current situation, wild camping. So just a brief activity highlight here. I think that wild camping is one of the coolest safe activities that you can do over the summer, but only some countries allow this. If you'd like to, all of the Nordic countries, so in Scandinavia, Estonia, parts of Spain, Poland, and many parts within the US are allowing wild camping.
Connection issues there. Are you back? Are you back?
Sorry.
No worries. All good. And it's really good because with the news today, a lot of these locations will actually be open up for American tourists and pretty much from anywhere as long as you have a vaccine. So it's really cool. So through JoinMyTrip, we actually have a really cool trip up by our trip leader, Christian. It's for the Midsummer Festival in Sweden. We'll post the link in the chat now for you guys if you'd like to check that one out. It'll be like a road trip / camping trip adventure, so it's really cool. That'll be from the 18th to 27th of June, so it's not too far ahead. So now that you guys are all set to start exploring, we thought we'd give you some great recommendations for some easy to travel to locations this summer and some of the exciting and safe activities that you can do there. So for all of these, there are no quarantine requirements as long as you have a negative test.
Okay, so first up, Belize. It's our first travel recommendation. It's full of gorgeous blue waters to dive in, fascinating ancient sites to explore. Currently, the citizens of all countries are allowed to enter without any entry form. You just have to present a negative test that you took within 96 hours, so 4 days of your arrival. Unless you're already vaccinated, then you're good to go. Standard masks and distancing rules apply, of course. One catch for Belize is that you're currently only allowed to book holiday accommodation that falls under their gold standard. So we'll send you a list of some of those in the chat.
So next up is Croatia, a land of gorgeous national parks and endless sailing opportunities, if that's your thing. You'll be required to take out a COVID travel insurance before you enter Croatia, so that's one catch. So just make sure you've got that sorted out. There will be a 48-hour testing requirement, entry form, standard mask and distancing requirements, but otherwise everything is open for you to explore.
Actually, we have a trip. Our trip leader Riaz has a trip on our website right now. If you want to check out some beautiful coastlines while staying distance, Riaz will do a series of sailing trips in Croatia. He'll offer those trips throughout June. So send him a message if you're interested to know more. We're going to post the link to his trip in the chat. Now, Iceland. Iceland has countless waterfalls and national parks to explore. Iceland is open currently only for vaccinated tourists. So if you haven't gotten the vaccine already, we'd advise pushing your Iceland plans until you're able to. You'll also have to complete a PCR test on arrival. And while there is no quarantine for vaccinated visitors, you'll have to isolate yourself until you have the results after some hours.
So our trip leader, Tom, currently has a really lovely 6-day road trip up in Iceland from late June. So he'll be available from late June, but you can do it anytime between June and December of 2022. So you just message him and see when he's available and to make that work. There's some really beautiful stops along the way that I honestly can't pronounce, so I'm not going to. So you can check them out in the chat, the link in the chat that I'll post right now. So next up is Mexico. Activities include the usual hiking and water-related activities, but as well, you can check out the Aztec or Mayan ruins and many more, I'm sure you guys know. You'll have the usual negative test requirement, even if you've been vaccinated, and a health questionnaire to fill out. Otherwise, yeah, no quarantine for those with the negative test and no symptoms, and entry is possible from all countries by air travel. So our trip leader, Tanya, has actually got a really cool trip up from the 17th to the 30th of July this summer, exploring the nature and culture around Puebla, Mexico City, and other parts around central Mexico. So she'll take you through some natural landscapes and some ancient ruins. So it looks like a really cool trip. We'll just post that link in the chat if you guys are interested in checking it out.
Okay, up next and last pick, it's Greece. Again, lots of beaches, sailing and hiking activities, and you can explore ancient ruins. You'll need the standard form and the negative test for entry. It's open now for all travelers with a vaccine and for members of the Schengen area, the USA and some others with a negative test or proof of recent recovery. Also, while restaurants and museums are open, there is currently a curfew in place between 12:30 and 5 a.m. So unfortunately, no late night partying. Here's a highlight of the Pindus mountain range. It's a fantastic trip by our trip leader, Panagiotis. He's offering a 4-day trekking tour through the Pindus mountain range in Greece. The tour is available from June until October. The itinerary, I had a look over it. It looks amazing, and it really provides the perfect distance adventure. Here's the link for you guys if you'd like to know more.
All right, guys, so we're nearing the end of things. So we just wanted to leave you guys with some key things to consider going forward in your trip planning. So the first thing is to just keep updated. The more up-to-date information that you have, the better prepared you are to handle whatever new things might pop up. Second tip is to follow the rules. Yeah, I know it can be a bit annoying making sure that you keep mind of the changing and differing regulations. They seem to be constantly everyday changing, but as long as you do what you need to do to lower the risk of you'll lower the risk of encountering any hiccups along the way. Finally, just have fun. I know a lot of us have been very anxious to get traveling but have been nervous about the situation around the world. But yeah, as long as you keep safe and kind of follow regulations, and as well as you're vaccinated as well, you can make the most out of your summer holidays and get out there and enjoy the world a bit again.
Okay, we hope you guys have enjoyed this webinar. We've got a lot of other events planned soon. You can check them all out in the link that Kira is going to send in the chat. Some of our upcoming events include a Cologne and Travel webinar on May 20th, a Workation webinar, so co-working, on May 26th, a Travel Inspiration webinar on Thailand on May 27th, where we're going to go over the best places to go in Thailand. Before we start with the Q&A session, Juliana, we need you guys to give us a hand.
Yes, so if afterwards you guys could just take 1 or 2 minutes to fill out our feedback form so we can get an idea of how to keep improving our events for you guys in the future, that would be really great. Also, you'll receive these slides and have a chance to win a voucher for $24 US or 20 euros off of one of our trips. So we'll just link that in the chat for you guys, also get it in the info pack as well. So since you guys haven't had the opportunity to communicate with us so far, now's your chance. Is there anything you'd like to know? You can put in the chat or you can raise your hand or unmute as you like. No questions?